Now, welcome to a deep dive into the second episode of Andor Season 2 titled Sagrona Teema, where this is going to be kind of one of my let's watch some Star Wars style videos where I'm just going to rewatch the episode for the third time now. I'm going to pause at certain points and tell you what I think or what I like, what I don't like, and we will go through the whole episode. Unlike yesterday where I kind of broke it down into storylines, we're just going straight through this one. And we're going to waste no time and jump right back into it. We start on Yavin 4, where a turf war of sorts is taking place. We have these two sides that couldn't get along after they were dropped off on Yavin with no food or water after a failed battle or a failed mission of some sort against the Empire. And they're all starving and thirsty and they want to get off the planet. And of course, instead of trying to work together, it all falls apart. They choose sides. One side gets the TIE fighter, the other Cassian's old ship. And we have a sort of standoff, and each side has now sent someone out to see if the fallen comrade from their side who got shot in the last episode, if they might still be alive somehow, or if they've maybe been taken captive. And at one point, one of the sides finds a boot with a foot in it, implying something has happened to their friend, that maybe one of those creatures that comes out in the night has gotten a hold of them, which is pretty much the case. They then have a bit of a firefight, and it is Cassian who points out the fact that, hey, it's raining. You might want to grab a tarp and collect some water because it's not going to rain forever, and we are short on supplies, we're short on water. And it's kind of funny how what starts the fight is the fact that they are trying to survive here, that food and water are scarce, but then a conflict arises, and that kind of becomes more important and more consuming in some ways than the survival is. The thing that started the whole conflict has now sort of almost been forgotten. It's about defeating the other side. It wasn't necessarily my favorite aspect of the first arc when I watched it the first time, but upon now watching it a third time here, I'm enjoying it more and more because you begin to see just how crazy the whole situation is. They are all on the same side. Even Cassian is on their side. They are all against the Empire, yet here they are because of the scarcity of resources. It all falls apart. It really begins to show you how fragile, I said it before, how fragile the early rebellion really is. That they lack the resources, they lack strong leadership, because here we have people arguing over who was second in command, you should be listening to me. And again, it just shows how much they must internally overcome, the rebellion must internally overcome to defeat the much greater, much more powerful and organized and resource-heavy empire. The next scene is a pretty brief one. It is Major Partagaz and Dedra coming back home to Coruscant after their holiday retreat in the mountains hosted by Director Krennic. And Dedra is kind of upset, disappointed that she has been tasked with this whole Gorman project. She wants to continue to hunt access. And Partagaz is like, you had 2 years to find him and you got nothing. Maybe next time before you make a big deal out of something, you should actually have that thing in hand. He then goes on to say, you can't exactly say no to this assignment, you can't say no to Krennic, and he is going to demand results, so it's time to put away the hunt for access. It is time to focus on this and to win, basically. And this scene really shows the determination of Dedra to find access. She has this obsession. It is not abating at all over the years as she fails to find him, and anything else is just a distraction to her, but one she needs to take care of because that is what the Empire requires of her. Next, it's back to the wedding preparations / multi-day wedding celebration party, which seems to involve a lot of drinking. We see Clea and Luthen having a discussion about what is happening on Mina Rao, that the communications have been cut off due to some sort of inspection, and Luthen's like, well, what kind of inspection? And Clea's like, well, wouldn't that be great to know? She's then like, I can't do my job from here, so I'm going home, and Luthen essentially lets her. We then have this little interesting moment between Mon Mothma and her husband Perrin, where Perrin basically accuses her of cheating on him with Tay. And it's interesting because you almost get the sense that Perrin is a little jealous, and not that he shouldn't be jealous or upset if his wife is indeed cheating on him. I'm not saying that. But it's such a interesting relationship these two have. You're seeing the end result of what Mon Mothma is afraid is going to happen to her daughter. That you're going to have this kind of we're in this together thing. We were married all these years ago, whether we liked it or not, and now here we are. We're just having to deal with each other. We kind of probably care about each other to some extent. But overall, it's not the kind of life or partnership we dreamed of when we were kids or wanted to have when we were young. And so here this is, again, the end result of what she is afraid is going to happen to our daughter. just two people living with each other and dealing with each other and always accusing each other of this or that, or never quite happy with them, I suppose. It's interesting stuff, and you really begin to understand why Mon is so against these old traditions and why she is so afraid of what her daughter is doing, which she, of course, kind of forced her into. Moving right along, we get a quick scene again, a lot of quick scenes in this episode, jumping from one to the next, but it's a scene on Mineral, the farming planet, if you will, and they are being told, the Ferrix crew are being told that the Empire is here, they're doing inspections, they're probably coming here next, they're discussing their options, what can we do, how can we kind of stay hidden, and there are no good options. He points out, the guy that is helping them hide points out, I don't know what his name is, he points out that others who have tried to run are the ones that got targeted and captured, so your best bet probably isn't to just run. He then asks about Cassian, and Bix says he'll be here, which is something that is very reminiscent of the end of Season 1, where she says after Cassian leaves them that he'll find us. And I get this terrible feeling that at some point, Bix is going to expect Cassian to arrive, and spoiler alert, he is going to arrive in time to save them, or save her at least. But I'm getting the feeling that at some point Cassian is not going to arrive in time to save Bix, and that is how her story is going to end. There is, again, I don't want to spoil too much in case you haven't seen all 3 episodes, but there is another character, you can probably guess which one, that he is not going to save in this arc. And I think that keeps building and keeps mounting for Cassian. He's going to keep losing people along the way. And I think this is a sign that Bix will be one of them. It's then back to Yavin and the turf war for a very brief scene that sort of just reiterates the problems that these two sides are having. One side has some moldy rations and they're not sure if they can even eat them or not. The other side is trying to crack open some melons that kind of look like coconuts and they smell terrible and they can't even stomach eating them. And again, it's reiterating how petty both sides are kind of being, that they would rather starve to death than try to work out some sort of situation to get themselves off planet. They do have a ship, they have a pilot, they just can't trust each other, they can't trust Cassian. Again, it is the woes of the early rebellion here. We then see Syril for the first time. He has a scene here where he is at the Bureau of Standards, and it's kind of a flip-flop from Season 1 when he is being introduced to the job, where he gets the job from Uncle Harlow and all that. And he's now in a supervisor role, and he's talking to a new hire about how important what they do here is, and there's a job for those who dare, and all that kind of stuff. It's a fun scene. He talks about how he discovered some sort of corruption and how he worked his way up the ranks. It is just a sort of reintroduction of the character to remind us of who he is, where he is, and all of that. The next scene is then Wilmon talking to his love interest, a local girl, and talking about how if he has to go, he will come back. You know, young love, that sort of thing. It then moves on to the Imperials showing up, and at first they just enter the shop. Everything seems okay. Everybody's trying to act natural. We then see that the lieutenant goes and finds Bix working alone, and at first it seems rather innocent. He seems to be trying to flirt with her, trying to get a date with her, trying to take her to the big city on the planet that isn't really much of a city for some dinner. Nothing bad, I would say. Maybe there are some creepy vibes, probably because we know, or most of us, when we saw this scene and had heard the rumors, we knew where this was ultimately going to go. But right now, at first, it's just a guy trying to get a date, and as she says no, as she talks about having a husband, it does get a little more eerie feeling, I guess you could say, but Brasso shows up, kind of ends the whole thing right there. And we are left to wonder what is going to come next. Again, a lot of us know where this is going, and I'll talk more about that in my review for the 3rd episode. And then we're climbing the side of a mountain on Chandraa. We're heading to the top for some sort of, I'm assuming, a wedding ceremony of some kind, or wedding tradition, where a priestess will purify everybody and probably bless the wedding, essentially. It's some cool, interesting world building, all well and good. Reminds me a little bit of a Visions episode from Season 1 of Visions, The Village Bride, where they do something rather similar. Mon and Val have a conversation about how's she doing, basically. Have you talked to your friend, quote-unquote, lately? Talked to Cinta lately? And Val says, basically, that it's poor timing on their part, that it was never going to be good. It was never even going to be okay, essentially, because of everything else going on. But that she begrudgingly seems to understand that it is for the cause, though you do wonder if she would ditch the cause for Cinta, but we know Cinta would not do the same. Cinta is 100% for the cause. And there's some interesting lines at the end of the conversation where Val essentially says there's work to be done, going back to understanding that, yeah, you sometimes have to put things before the self, But Mon says you have to live to do it, don't you? Kind of implying, or I think implying, that it's not exactly worth giving up everything and leaving absolutely nothing for yourself. What's the point of saving the galaxy if you have nothing left to show for it when it's all done? Which could, of course, be Mon referencing the fact that she's kind of given her daughter away, that she is giving up so much to defeat the Empire that what is the point anymore? What do I even have anymore? It's kind of like Luthen, who has accepted the fact that he has sacrificed everything, and he's not happy about it. Or there are some sort of regrets there, as we saw in his famous speech from Season 1 about how he had sacrificed everything. He doesn't get any recognition, he'll never be thanked, he won't get to enjoy the world he has created. And I think this kind of references back to that a little bit, where when you give up so much, what do you even have left? Is it worth giving everything to win a fight when you don't personally get anything from the victory? Which, sure, you could say sounds selfish, but these aren't Jedi. These are normal people who had, or once upon a time had normal lives, or want normal lives, and you can understand why giving so much is so painful for them. It's then once again back to the standoff on Yavin, where one side, the side with the TIE fighter, is trying to slowly but surely turn the ship so they can blow up the other ship, which is going to basically take them all day to pull off, and they're putting in all this work, all this effort to kill the other side, and what is that actually going to accomplish? Because you're going to blow up Cassian too, you're going to blow up the pilot, you're just going to strand yourself here. And so again, we are just seeing how mistrust is the enemy of the rebellion at this point, how they will not work together, they'd rather kill each other than maybe risk that they could come together and help each other and get out of this situation. They have a ship, they have a pilot, it could happen, but we'd rather just nuke them instead of trying to trust them. It's then on to yet another very brief scene, this time between Syril and Dedra. They are a thing. They are a couple, as many of us predicted and hoped for after Season 1. And there's a sort of awkwardness to this relationship. We don't see much of it. It's literally a minute-long scene or something like that. But you can feel this really strange awkwardness. I think it's perfect. I think it's very befitting, these two. They are discussing somebody coming for a visit that Syril is trying to put off. And again, minor spoiler alert if you haven't seen episode 3, though I think you can probably guess who we're talking about. But Cyril's mother is coming for dinner, and he is certainly not happy about it. He's not sure he wants these two to meet. He doesn't know how that's going to go. Or he's just kind of embarrassed about his mother because she can be quite much at times. Not to mention how she tends to treat him. We then move on back to the wedding or party where we see Tay is letting Mon know that things haven't exactly been going well for him lately. He has split with his wife, he's had some investments that are going south, and coincidentally enough, they're going south because of rebel activity. He tells her he feels undervalued or underappreciated, and he's basically threatening her that, hey, I could expose everything if you don't give me a little compensation here. Which is catching Mon completely off guard. And she's trying to say, you know what, you're right, I should have been more appreciative, I should have thought about you. We are, after all, old friends, which is what I thought she was counting on. The fact that they are old friends would be enough for him to want to help her. And maybe it was until his wife left and the investments went south. But here she is now having to try to figure out how to compensate him, all the while Luthen is paying very close attention. He is seeing this tense conversation between the two, and he will confront her later and ask what is going on. But before that, there are a couple more scenes, a couple more quick ones. Again, this episode jumps from one to the next quite a bit. And the first one is back on Minarao on the farm planet. They're kind of just discussing what their options are, talking about how the Empire has finished up the inspection at one place and very well could be coming here the next day. This is followed up by a scene of Clea returning to the shop on Coruscant and basically getting back to her normal work schedule, her working the radio, basically, and trying to figure out what is going on Minarao, what is going on with Cassian. Then it's back to Luthen and Mon, and Luthen tells her that this is all very troubling with Tay, and she insists we will find a number, I'll set a meeting with him next week, we will figure this out. She doesn't like where she fears Luthen might be going with this, that he needs to be taken care of. I don't know that she quite realizes how severe this is, or how far Luthen is going to go, or could possibly go. But again, she is insistent. She wants to save her old friend. I think she understands that, yeah, his wife left him. His investments are going south. And he did put a lot on the line for her. He did help her. So she does want to pay him back. I think, sure, she's a little shocked by it, she's a little upset by it, but I don't think she feels that he is in the wrong for wanting some compensation for all he's done. It's just poor timing to bring it up right now. That's what she told Tay. We'll figure it out after the wedding. If I can survive this, I will set up a meeting and we will figure it out. But Luthen is a little worried about how this is all going to play out. Next, then, we get a fantastic little speech from Perrin where he basically says, in not so many words, that life is going to crap on you from time to time. Bad things happen. Difficulties and anxieties will sneak up on you uninvited, but you have to move past them. You have to look for the good things in life. You have to enjoy the simple things in life. That is what it is all about. Nothing is ever going to be perfect, but you can find happiness even in a world or galaxy that can be chaotic. He even talks about how something as simple as sharing a meal together can be all you really need, which is a perfect segue back to what is going on in Yavin, where the episode will end, where of course they would all love to just have a simple meal. There is a nice little subtle message in there in this episode underneath it all about how it is the simple things in life that make everything worthwhile, or that you actually need just to survive. You got the whole Val and Cinta thing, what I was talking about before. How what's the point in giving absolutely everything to the fight if you don't have anything left afterwards? You have this rebel cell on Yavin, they're starving, they just need, again, a simple meal, and it would make everything better for them. Then there's even Tay, who initially was seemingly just happy helping Mon for the sake of helping Mon. Back when he had his wife, he had his investments, everything else was good, but now that he has lost that, he needs something else to cling to. He needs the recognition, he needs a little bit of money. Either way now, after the standoff has lasted another day or a day in total, whatever it is, they have decided to put their weapons down and to try to talk this out or have some sort of game of space, rock, paper, scissors to figure out who is the leader or something along those lines. And Cassian uses that sort of as a distraction. He gets his hands on a gun, he ties up the guy who was holding him and makes a break for the other ship. All the while, it looks like a Reek from episode 2 kind of comes busting through the camp and attacks people. He's the thing that's been eating people, I'm assuming. And in the chaos and panic, Cassian gets into the ship and he just flies away. And these rebels, this rebel cell is left there with nothing because, again, they could not find a way to work together. They could not find a way to try and trust somebody, even though it wouldn't make sense that a random Imperial TIE fighter would just land in their encampment. I understand how difficult it would be to trust in that situation, but when you really logically stop and think about it, but you're not so logical when you're starving. But if you logically think about it, it makes sense that Cassian is kind of telling the truth that, hey, I'm a rebel like you. I am here to just hand this ship off to the next guy. I'm not just randomly here in Yavin where you happen to be. This is a meeting point for rebels, and I am one of you. But instead, it gets to the point where their mistrust and everything else is so destructive, they are left in a worse situation than they were before. They are now getting attacked and eaten. They have no food themselves, and who knows what becomes of them. There's a good chance we see them again, considering we know we will eventually be getting back to Yavin in this season. But for now, they are left in a pretty terrible situation. And so overall, I don't know that this is or should be considered a fantastic episode in and of itself, and you can certainly look at it and judge it that way as its own episode. But in the context of the 3-part story arc, it is the middle portion of it, and in that capacity, it is really good. This whole arc is really good. I've watched it a few times now, and each time I watch it, it just gets better and better. There are things you missed, there are subtle connections that you now see, and I always consider that a sign of a really good, well-written show, that the first time you watch it, you can get a lot out of it, you can enjoy it, but each subsequent viewing only makes things better. Instead of you finding more cracks or chinks in the armor, if you will, you instead see how it all comes together and makes sense. And again, maybe not the greatest episode in and of itself, but this was a fantastic way to kick off Season 2 of Andor with this story arc. Alright, well that is going to be all I got for you this time. Now it is your turn. Take to the comments below. Tell me what you thought of this second episode of Season 2 of Andor, and tomorrow I should have the 3rd episode up. Either way, do leave your comments below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.